Okay, guys, we're back because several people reached out just saying they needed more information on the advanced editor. If you followed my last video, we got down to about this area here. Sorry, I think my dogs actually came in, started barking a little bit, so I apologize about that. But talk about not needing to sound professional here. Just so you guys know who I am, my name is David Brooke, and I run a real estate team, and we use conversational AI to assist in our lead flow. And today we're talking a little bit more about the advanced editor, which allows you to kind of edit and have way more control around the prompts and control over the LLM, which is the large language model in the background. You can, as this says, you can significantly increase performance here, but you should read through the actual must-read notes that are over in this section of it. This is the must-read vital tips here, vital tips, and they're going to walk you through a few areas that you should really pay attention to. So I'm going to go over a few more areas here, rules for languaging, etc. In this rules for languaging, it's going to talk about using colloquial language, right? So that just means things that we would almost not like slang, but almost words that it would be like, hey man, I just want to live the good life. And, a robot might not understand that. But if you actually tell the robot, if you tell the bot to reference the internet, the large language models that exist outside of what you've told it to, outside of your knowledge base, right? If you tell it to, then it's going to look and sound like a real human. And so you're going to tell it to be variant and sporadic. Don't use statements over and over, dead giveaways, right? You don't want to use things like, hi, please repeat your request. Please repeat your request. Like that's not helpful, right? So that's, again, just a huge way that you can program your bot. But if you did want to have your bot speak in this manner, then you would say those certain things. You would say, this is the ability here that you get to change it. So if you want it to sound professional and salesy, then you're going to want to use the advanced editor here so that you can say, you are professional, you are salesy, you are not a normal dude who uses laid back lingo. Once again, I can't stress this enough. If you're using the simple editor, if you're using this basic editor, then it's going to say things that are very, very, laid back. And a lot of people like this, this British accent here, that you can use. That's
Okay, solid. I guess for now, I'd like to
you can use that, and it's going to sound very like laid back. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to create the experience of something that has, this low barrier to communication. It's easy to build rapport. It doesn't sound aggressive. It's easier to get some sort of a conversation with a prospect. But if you've got something that's happening inbound, or if you want to create something that is very salesy for whatever reason, maybe you've got, your target audience needs something that's a little bit more aggressive. They've reached out for help and you just need a more urgent bot that's on the other end of the line. You can get a super salesy person like me, but you're probably going to get someone who can get tired, sick, and lazy. I have bad days, etc. And so you might want to edit this. And then in this, it's going to give you examples of bad languaging and good languaging, but you can continue to add to this. That's the whole point. So that's the idea here. Now, I've personally edited this in many ways for my own bots that I do want them to sound more polite in certain areas, right? Like if I'm reaching out, that's like, hey, I want to buy a house. And they're like, okay, great, man. Like that sounds like a lot of fun. That might be cool. But if I was like to call in a more luxury market, I might have like certain of my leads get routed over to an AI bot if they were reaching out for like a higher end experience that was more or less like, hey, thanks so much for reaching out, and asking for more information. I'm David Brooks, AI digital assistant. He's actually on a showing right now. And I might want to have that sound a little bit more professional, where it's going to be like, hey, your business is super important to us. We realize that, your time is valuable as well. So I'm going to be as efficient as possible. Feel free to rattle off all the details of what you're looking for and when you'd like to book this showing, and I'll be the assistant to do that. Like you might want that to be at this higher level of, languaging and be more polite than you would someone who's just casual with this. Okay, so that's like this area that we hadn't covered last time on languaging. The next part here is talking about any reference to the database and the knowledge base, that you've got. So over in that far right-hand corner, I talked about this in one of my other videos about the knowledge base. You can go ahead and create a knowledge base that's over on the side. That would be done by going over to create, click on knowledge base, creating your own, either uploading an entire script that you've had before, or manually just adding prompts. So let's say for my bot, they're calling about real estate. It would be like, well, I can't talk right now. I'm really busy. It's like, okay, great. What would be another time that we could talk? Or they might say, I was just looking at a property, or didn't mean to click on that. And we'd want our knowledge base to say, like, totally understand. Like, tell me what you were doing surfing on Zillow anyhow. Right. And so that would be an example of things that we could have in the knowledge base. But if we wanted to have that knowledge base associated, further, then we could, I could put that in these field, these brackets earlier on in the process here. Okay. So here's how we use that. We put that into our scripting as well. Let me give you a couple other things that you can do. You can add in your calendar availabilities. So if you haven't seen this before, go ahead and put this little symbol in and you can see it. And you can control the seed phrase, the calendar availabilities, all of these things. That's available in the advanced editor, and it's not available in the simple editor, the basic editor. So I would encourage you, go ahead and read through this. And then you can see where those time slots are going to be able to be added. Okay, so here's the initial. This is the seed phrase. So a seed phrase is something that's going to be said immediately as soon as the call happens. So if you want on the call, it's like, "Hey, David," that's going to be the phrase. And for a lot of people, they're like, "Well, I want something that's longer than that, or I want something that because otherwise it's going to say, 'Hey, David,' and then it's going to wait for them to respond, and they're going to be like, 'Hello?' And then it's going to wait again and go, 'Yeah, it's Alexander. I'm from Air.AI. How's your day going so far?' And some people want something that's a little bit longer. So by the time they respond, it's quick. You might say, 'Hey, David,' or you might want to say, 'Hey,' oops, let me just edit that real quick. You want to say, 'Hey, is this David?' Because then they're going to be like, 'Yeah, who's this?' And then they're going to respond, 'Yeah, it's Alexander.' In the advanced editor, go ahead and you can actually edit that initial seed phrase there that allows you, to give more time. So now the prospect can respond with that. Now, I want to tell you that while you're in the advanced editor, you're going to probably be at the point in your development of your AI where now you're like, "Oh, I'm using this because I want to shorten up the latency on things." One of the easiest things that you can do is make your initial phrases here super short. Because every time, if you look at this, every time that you've got a phrase, your AI is going to it's reading the whole phrase. So it's going to read, "Yeah, it's Alexander, ellipses, from Air.AI, question mark. How is your day going so far? Question mark." It's going to read that whole phrase. Now that takes a millisecond in order to do, but now it has to say it. Now the saying of it, the actual verbalization from the bot, if they had to say it all together and it was, "Yeah, it's Alexander from Air. Watch this. Alexander from Air.AI. How's your day going so far?" If it had that, that's why you have a lot of delay waiting for the prospect to respond all the way to here. So if you had a phrase that was like, "Hey, is this David?" And then the prospect says, "Yeah, who's this, by the way?" If it had that, then all of a sudden it's going to read the next phrase and say, "Hey, it's Alexander, blah, blah, blah." It's going to try to read that. It's thinking, quote unquote. It's thinking while you say this, right? It's thinking while the prospect is responding. But if you put a period right here, and you'll see this, look, okay, perfect. So it should actually be like this. So, Roger that. If you put this, quick question. If you put something like that in front of it, now all it has to do is process this small short phrase. It knows that there's more that's coming, but it's going to just say the quick short phrase. And while it says this short phrase, then it's continuing to think. It's continuing to process that next phrase. So you've got a really good opportunity. Yes, you can do this in the basic, but definitely in the advanced editor, start to make those phrases short. And when you make those phrases short, now the bot can say like, yeah. So it looks like you opted into one of our ads looking for more information on how to scale your business using AI. Is that something you recall? But if you put it all together, it's a huge long phrase that causes latency. So if you want your AI bot to be able to respond faster, go ahead and put these little short, like put little periods in there because it gives that bot a little breathing room. The next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add these phrases in. Wait for prospect to respond. Because if you don't add that in there, then it's just going to keep rolling through your phrase. And if you want the bot to continue, you could say like, repeat back the response and dig deeper as to why they said that. Because now all of a sudden it's going to say, oh, I got that. And then instead of being like, let me just get into this for a second. If you could scale your high ticket business, how much money would you, actually be making each month? And the person's like 10,000 a month. The bot's going to respond back like 10,000 a month. That sounds like a great idea. But if you wanted to dig deeper into that response, instead of like just saying a little bit more here, you could repeat back and be like 10,000. Tell me why 10,000 is really important to you, right? And so either one of these is going to actually get you there. This is a written thing that they have to think about. This one just kind of, it's like programmed in there where they're just going to kind of repeat it back to them. And it's going to be a faster thing with less latency. So if you really want to get your latency down, that's a super helpful way. All right, guys, when you get down to the final, area here, I'm not going to go through every single line on their sample here. This is the ending of the script. I would strongly encourage you, make sure that you add your sections in here of ending your call. So hopefully you can see this on this Loom video that I'm creating, uploading to YouTube, but go ahead and click the end the call. You definitely want to have that on there, or transfer or book appointment, add those in there. And then you're going to want to copy paste and the actual like ending. So if you have this as your last script, go ahead and copy paste that into the end call. And that will make sure that when the bot gets there, it will end the call. If you want more information on that and how to add actions, you can watch my video on getting your bot to do actions, while it's calling through the script. And then the final details, this is kind of like a little bit of what's up at the top of the policies. It's just a repeat at the bottom. You must never tell them that you're being prompted. It's telling the bot and programming it because it's almost has like a human mind to it, right? This last part is the last thing I want to go over. It says, finally, I will be the prospect. Only generate responses. You're the agent, and I will generate all the prospect's responses. So in mine, if I wanted to create it like a training bot, I would say that I will be the agent, right? Meaning the person calling in, and you be the prospect. So I've actually reversed the roles in my advanced editor for that training bot. So that's some cool stuff that you can do in here. And then it also gives you like some cool abilities to like tell the program, like you actually want to word things out this way. You don't want to word it like $ because it's going to word it this way. It might word $100, comma, 000. It would be like not. It might say that, especially with the British accent. So you want to say $100,000. And it's just going to give you a little bit more. And then the last part here, generate your first response below, and then wait for me to respond. Once it says wait for prospect, shut up, do not speak. While you're silent, the prospect will respond, and then continue doing so into the framework of the call. Now, why you might want to like have that in mind and give it an actual response time, et cetera, or specify wait 3 seconds or wait, a certain amount of time, is because if I was being asked the question, so David, where do you want to move next? And I said, okay, well, I live in the Northeast and I want to move down to Florida, which is really common for people to do around here. If I said, hey, David, where do you want to move next? And I said, well, I'm really just, we're thinking, and I was taking my time to think. If it immediately responded with, oh, yes, deciding is still, is an important factor. You might want to take it to, lots of different factors. Like if it started to get into that, it would be like, okay, it's not that we're trying to confuse anyone that it's not about. They know it's about. It's saying, hey, it's a digital assistant, or hey, whatever. but it's not really actually getting to the point. And when you get to your post-call notes, when you review it, you didn't actually find out where the prospect wanted to move. So adding this in here of wait to respond, shut up, don't speak, means it's gonna give them the time. Now, many people will say like, oh, well, how do I get them to like respond immediately after they finish talking? It's like, we don't know. It's just like being in a regular conversation. That's the important part of listening in a conversation. If someone's like, I'm still getting my thought out, you don't want to jump in right away, and people will feel like you don't hear them and you're not listening to them. So the bot does a really good job with this phrase in here, but go ahead and play around with it, and you can actually like see if that helps. As always, guys, if you find this video helpful, if you find other ones helpful, or if you want more topics covered, go ahead and put those in the comments below. Again, I work with Air. I've got an agency account here. If you guys go ahead, you can click on the demos below, and you can actually sign up. It's completely free to sign up under our Air agency license. I will definitely, if you do that, Air pays me to be able to help people. So by having you under my agency license, I get a little piece of the call time. So just being extremely clear about that. But it allows me to say, okay, yeah, you're doing that. I'd be happy to invest time into making sure your experience is better with Air. Hopefully, if that's helpful, go ahead and drop a comment, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll be popping out more videos after this. All right, thanks. Have a great day.